one of the things to me that distinguishes, or that was like immediately distinguishing from like your work from what compared to the other physical therapists was just like the breaking down of every muscle, like in testing the same muscle with multiple things, like kind of like you said, splitting up the muscle into groups. Do you teach that in one of these first classes, or is that going to be more like...
It's more advanced. Yeah. So manual therapy, movement, and then that diagnostic muscle testing is what comes after you have this foundation. And the reason for it is because when you test those muscles, the body will say, I need this vertebra rotated. I need this tissue released. And if you don't know how to do that, it's not helpful to get that information.
Okay.
So you've got to have tools to use to treat the body, And so that's what this prepares you for, is then to go into the diagnostic manual muscle testing, split up the muscles and find out why is this muscle, like what's blowing out the circuit, right? So definitely electrical impulses from the brain go to the muscle. And if it's not connected, if it's not being able to communicate, why is that? There could be hundreds of reasons. And so to be able to narrow that down through muscle testing and know the precise reason and address that changes everything. So that's some of the answers to what we do to get muscles activated lives in this piece of information. And some of it lives in movement, and some of it lives here. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because the big thing is, and you know this too, that you can put the body in better alignment, but if you don't teach somebody how to use their body in better alignment, they're going to keep coming back to you with the same problem. Yeah? And that might be good from a financial perspective, but it's not very intellectually stimulating. From a practitioner's perspective, it's like, I want to move on, And so, and they're not really ultimately helping that person to take care of themselves. So this is a really critical piece. And sometimes when people come in, maybe Aldo's whole problem is all his muscles are working and he's got full range of motion, but the way he coordinates his movement pattern is what's creating the problem. So sometimes this is all that's going on. Sometimes this is all that's going on. Sometimes this is all that's going on. Sometimes it's a little bit here, a little bit here, a little bit here, and a little bit there. Yeah.
Okay. So when you use terms like, I think like Cat 3 or Cat 4, I don't remember what
yes.
the terms were. That's all part of this system, this stuff?
We're going to actually go into that here in bioactivation. So in the middle core, we actually work with here to here. And so we work with all the different dysfunctions that can happen in the pelvis. And so people can have a rotation of their sacrum or this bone or their whole pelvis three-dimensionally, or there can be a dysfunction between the pelvis and the low back. And so working on neutralizing that with respect to the whole system. Because if you just derotate the sacrum, but you don't adjust another segment, maybe the sphenoid or maybe a cervical spine joint, could be causing the sacrum to constantly go out. So you want to straighten it out, but in the context of the whole. And so, yes, those categories that you've seen are something that is taught in the second class.
Okay.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so there is some muscle testing right here because of that, but it's specific to those categories because there are honestly over 300 muscle tests.
Wow.
So it's a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, and you don't have to memorize it all. We all have books we can go back to, but that's the level of intricacy that it's broken down into if you're that curious. And some people are like, that's enough information for me. Some people are like, oh man, I want to know every test. That was me, And so that might be you. It might not, So it's just, how curious are you? How much do you want to learn? That's what it's about.
Do physical therapists, do they get continuing education credits for
Yes,
classes?
for this, yeah.
One of my questions was, because I mean, me having experienced like other physical therapists, I'm like, I want you to go learn from Rebecca because like, you know, it's like what you're doing to me is not what she's doing to me. But I also recognize that they are kind of immersed in that system that's very like mechanical or like machine-like, and their time is very regimented because of the way they have to like report ICP codes or whatever it is. And I guess, do you have any tips for people for like how they can integrate this without doing the whole shebang of like becoming an independent physical therapist?
Yes.
Like, can they still do this in a regular practice without worrying like about like kind of, I don't know, violating one of their codes? Like,
Yeah. So that is such a loaded and important question. So the answer is absolutely. Like what's taught in this class, if it can be used pieces of it specifically with each person. I do admit that at some point they might want to be able to have more time to go into deeper levels and to do more, you know, because you actually do need time for the nervous system to process and integrate. And that kind of goes into this realm, that you kind of do need time for this. You can't do this in 5 minutes with someone. You can't work with things that have been held in the body and process it quickly. The nervous system needs time, you know. But you can also work conjointly with other practitioners in the community that's not another physical therapist. So as a PT, you could get really good at bioactivation and really good at bioactive myomechanics, and you will be an outstanding practitioner in your community, and you will be able to identify things that no one else can. You'll be able to fix things that no one else can, and just by knowing these two things. And that's as a medical practitioner, physical therapist. And you can also do that as a massage therapist, where people are not met by traditional care. You can be the person that helps them. Yeah, so absolutely.